Do you think you truly know the people around you? You believe you can spot toxicity when someone's energy feels heavy, when their behavior crosses a line. But what if I told you the real dangers aren't so obvious? The most destructive people in your life don't announce themselves with red flags or overt malice. They come disguised as charm, kindness, even love. Sometimes they're your family, your friends, your colleagues. While you're busy protecting yourself from the loud villains, you might be opening the doors of your mind to something far more insidious, the unconscious of others invading your own. Carl Gustav Jung dedicated his life to unraveling these hidden dynamics in his seminal works, like the ego and the unconscious and archetypes and the collective unconscious. He revealed a chilling truth. Most of what governs human behavior lies beyond conscious control, not just in you, but in everyone. And that's where the danger lies, when someone is blind to their own darkness, their shadow. As Jung called it, that shadow doesn't stay contained. It seeks a host, and often that host is you. Stop and think. How many times have you felt drained after a conversation, blamed for something you didn't do, or burdened with solving a tragedy that wasn't yours? Jung called this projection, an unconscious mechanism where people cast their unacknowledged fears, desires, and wounds onto you. In that moment, you stop being a person. You become a symbol, a mirror, an enemy, a savior, an idealized figure, none of which is truly you. The scariest part, you might not even realize you're caught in this game. You think you're helping, being empathetic, being mature, but in reality, you're sinking into a psychological swamp that doesn't belong to you, fighting battles that aren't yours, manipulated by forces you didn't create, but now control you. Jung was clear. The greatest dangers don't come from deliberate malice or conscious cruelty. They come from the unintegrated, unconscious people alienated from their own psyche, dominated by masks, traumas, complexes, and repressed desires. These aren't evil people. They're dangerous because their danger is silent. It doesn't barge through the front door. It seeps in slowly, daily, through subtle comments, veiled accusations, loaded silences, until you start doubting yourself. When you lose touch with your own psychic reality, you become part of their shadow. This might be happening to you right now in a relationship, a friendship, a workplace, or even within your family. You might be blaming yourself, wondering, what's wrong with you? The answer, nothing. But there's something deeply wrong with how you're being used as a vessel for someone else's unconscious. In this video, we'll unmask the 6 types of people Jung would identify as emotionally dangerous, not because they're malicious, but because they're unaware of the internal forces driving them. Using Jung's own words and concepts from works like Ion, the ego and the unconscious, and archetypes and the collective unconscious, we'll reveal how to recognize these profiles, understand their impact, and protect your psychic sovereignty. But more than that, we'll hold a mirror to yourself, because as Jung taught, the unconscious isn't just in others, it's in you too. Are you ready to see? Take a deep breath and move forward. But be warned, after this, you'll never look at the people around you or yourself the same way again. 1. The unconscious manipulator imagination, living with someone who makes you feel responsible for their every emotion. They blame you for their anger, their sadness, their insecurity, not because you caused it, but because they can't face it themselves. At first, they seem fragile, sensitive, even profound. But over time, you realize you're being pulled into a battlefield that isn't yours, fighting wars you didn't start. This is the unconscious manipulator someone dominated by unintegrated traumas and repressed emotions, projecting their inner chaos onto you as a form of psychic survival. Jung wrote, in the ego and the unconscious, what we do not confront in ourselves, we will encounter as fate. For the unconscious manipulator, that fate often takes the form of relationships where others become the canvas. For their unresolved conflicts, they live in a state of chronic projection, a mechanism Jung described as inevitable but destructive. When unrecognized, projection turns you into a symbol, a savior, an enemy, a betrayer, anything but who you are. They don't see you. They see a fragment of their own psyche and react as if it's real. Consider someone who always plays the victim. When they're angry, it's because you provoked them. When they're sad, it's because you let them down. When they feel inferior, It's because you act superior. This distortion is so subtle. You start questioning yourself. Was I insensitive? Did I say something wrong? Am I the problem? This is manipulation without a single raised voice or overt demand. It's emotional, unconscious, and devastatingly effective. These people are often charismatic, sensitive, even magnetic, which makes them even more dangerous. You think you can help them, heal them, understand them better than others, but you're not helping. You're sacrificing your psychic health to rescue someone who refuses to look inward. For example, imagine a friend who constantly shares their struggles, leaning on you for support. You listen, you comfort, you give. But over time, you notice they never change. They thrive on the drama, not the solution. Every time you try to set boundaries, they guilt trip you. I thought you cared. Jung warned that these patterns trap you in a symbolic role, draining your energy while feeding their illusion. To protect yourself, you must develop awareness. Ask, is what I'm feeling truly mine, or is it induced? Recognize the patterns, cut the invisible threads tying you to their narrative, and reclaim your psychic space, because if you don't, you'll drown in their unconscious. 2. The bearer of the persona. Not all dangers come from emotional chaos. Some come from what seems to perfect. The flawless smile, the polished demeanor, the impeccable image. We live in an era obsessed with appearances, where seeming matters more than being. Jung saw this as a profound problem. In the ego and the unconscious asterisk, he described the persona as what someone is not, but what he and others think he is, a social mask crafted to meet expectations. We all wear a persona to navigate the world, but the bearer of the persona takes it to an extreme, identifying so fully with their mask that they lose touch with their authentic self. These people are masters of functional superficiality. They say the right things, act the right way, avoid conflict at all costs. They're the perfect colleague, the ideal partner, the model friend until you realize something's off. There's no spontaneity, no depth, no vulnerability. Everything feels rehearsed, like a performance. Behind their controlled facade lies a soul in ruins, suffocating under the weight of an image they can't let go. The more they sustain the mask, the more they repress their true self, and that repression always comes at a cost. Living with a bearer of the persona is disorienting. You sense something's wrong but can't pinpoint it. Their interactions lack truth, and they expect you to play along, to fit into their curated narrative. If you express raw emotion, anger, doubt, pain, they withdraw, become uncomfortable, or subtly shame you for not adhering to the script. Jung warned that this over-identification with the persona is a major obstacle to individuation, the journey towards self-knowledge and integration. When someone lives only to be accepted, admired, or praised, they become a hostage to their facade, and their authenticity dies. For example, think of a co-worker who's always agreeable, always professional, but never shares anything real. You try to connect, but it's like talking to a polished surface. Over time, you feel pressured to match their perfection, to hide your own flaws, to perform. This is contagious. You start wearing a mask too, doubting your own spontaneity. To protect yourself, you must stay grounded in your authenticity. Refuse to play their game. Embrace your imperfections, speak your truth, and watch how they react. The bearer of the persona can't handle what's real. It threatens their carefully constructed world. 3. The owner of the repressed shadow. Some people seem balanced, controlled, even admirable until they explode. They're always correct, always polite, always restrained. But beneath this veneer lies a force ready to erupt. This is the owner of the repressed shadow someone who pushes down everything they deem wrong or unacceptable. Anger, envy, desire into the basement of their psyche. It doesn't disappear. It festers, waiting for a trigger to unleash its chaos. Jung wrote in Ion, the shadow is everything the individual refuses to recognize in themselves, and yet it insists on manifesting. The shadow isn't just your flaws, it's your denied potential, your repressed creativity, your hidden strength. But when ignored, it turns toxic. The owner of the repressed shadow seems harmless at first, kind, disciplined, helpful, but they're intolerant of weakness in others, irritated by spontaneity, unsettled by raw emotions. They're always charged, holding back an explosion that, when it comes, is devastating. Picture a parent who's always calm and composed, but erupts in rage over a minor mistake, or a partner who holds grudges for years, punishing you. With passive-aggressive silence, Jung explained that the stronger the persona, the more repressed the shadow and the more brutal its eruption. These people have disproportionate reactions, sabotage relationships subtly, and leave you wondering why they're so bitter. The answer lies in their unintegrated shadow, a force they refuse to face. Living with them is like walking through a minefield. You never know what will set them off. You start policing yourself, avoiding certain topics, suppressing your own emotions to keep the peace. But this only feeds their shadow, making it stronger. Jung's solution: make the unconscious conscious. For them, that means facing their shadow. For you, it means recognizing when their darkness is spilling into your life. Set boundaries, call out their behavior, and don't internalize their projections. Your light doesn't dim because their shadow is heavy. 4. The moral controller net. Every danger comes with a raised voice. Some come cloaked in righteousness. The moral controller wields rules, dogmas, and moral superiority as weapons, not to uplift, but to control. Jung saw this archetype as a profound threat to psychic freedom. In Ion, he discussed the interplay of light and shadow, noting that those who claim moral purity often project their darkness onto others, condemning them to avoid facing their own contradictions. The moral controller believes they're doing good, correcting, saving, educating. They position themselves as a beacon of virtue, but it's a facade. Their criticism comes wrapped in phrases like, "It's for your own good," or "Someone has to tell you the truth," but their truth is loaded with projection. They judge your desires, your choices, your humanity, because they can't face their own. You feel watched, diminished, guilty for simply existing. Over time, you internalize their judgment, repressing parts of yourself to fit their ideal. Think of a religious figure who shames others for sin while ignoring their own flaws, or a family member who polices your every move under the guise of care. Jung warned that excessive moralism blocks individuation, replacing self-knowledge with control. To break free, you must reject their narrative, embrace your humanity flaws and all, and refuse to let their morality cage you. The moral controller doesn't want truth, they want power. 5. The complex person. Some people are emotional roller coasters, one moment warm and loving, the next cold and accusatory. A compliment becomes a demand, a joke turns aggressive, a gesture of affection is misread as a threat. This is the complex person, someone dominated by unconscious complexes, autonomous clusters of emotion and memory that hijack their behavior. Jung described complexes in psychological types, and the ego and the unconscious as fragmented personalities, born from traumas or unresolved experiences that take control without warning. A simple comment might trigger an old wound: abandonment, rejection, shame, and they react not to you, but to the echo of their past. Their fury, sadness, or resentment feels rational to them, but it's not. It's unpredictable, interspersed with moments of lucidity or affection that keep you hooked. You think, they're not always like this, and you stay, hoping for the good version. But the good comes with chaos, and you end up walking on eggshells, adapting, shrinking to avoid their storms. Imagine a partner who explodes over a harmless remark, only to apologize later with genuine remorse. The cycle repeats, and you're trapped, trying to manage their emotions. Jung's insight: complexes colonize the psyche, acting and feeling for the person. To protect yourself, recognize when their reactions aren't about you. Don't try to fix them, that's their work. Set boundaries, prioritize your stability, and step back from their chaos. 6. The psychic vampire. Some people don't want your presence, they want your energy. They drain you not with aggression, but with subtle demands, chronic victimhood, or emotional dependency disguised as affection. This is the psychic vampire, the most insidious of Jung's warnings. In the ego and the unconscious, Jung described symbiotic relationships where one person clings to another as a psychic extension. As a major threat to individuation, the psychic vampire needs your constant attention, comfort, availability. But their void is bottomless, and you can't fill it. You start by offering support, then sacrifice time, then tolerate abuse in the name of empathy. The exhaustion isn't just physical, it's existential, as if your soul is being drained. Drop by drop, they make you feel guilty for wanting space, selfish for needing silence, cold for seeking distance. They're masters at reversing roles, turning from victim to accuser, from needy to manipulator. Before you know it, you're living to avoid their crises, to maintain their peace, to sustain a bond that's killing you inside. Think of a friend who calls constantly with their problems, never asking about yours. You give, they take, and you're left empty. Jung's solution is to make the unconscious conscious for them and for you. Recognize when you're being drained. Set firm boundaries. Even if they guilt trip you, reclaim your energy by prioritizing your own psychic growth. The psychic vampire doesn't want to grow, they want to be carried. Don't let their void consume you. The path forward: these 6 types. The unconscious manipulator, the bearer of the persona, the owner of the repressed. Shadow, the moral controller, the complexed person. The psychic vampire are not just external threats. They're mirrors, reflecting parts of ourselves we may not want to see. Jung believed we all have a shadow, complexes, and moments of projection. The difference lies in who has the courage to look within and who projects their pain onto others. This video isn't about blaming others, it's about breaking free, reclaiming your psychic sovereignty, and stepping out of the unconscious jungle. To do this, start with awareness. Ask yourself, which of these profiles have I encountered? Which might I be reflecting? Even unintentionally, awareness is the first step toward freedom. Next, set boundaries firm, unapologetic ones. Protect your energy, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. Finally, dive into your own shadow. Jung taught that making the unconscious conscious is the path to wholeness. It's not easy, but it's the only way to live authentically. If this resonated, share your thoughts in the comments. Which type have you faced? Which do you see in yourself? Your honesty could spark awareness for others. Subscribe for more deep dives into the psyche, and check out my ebook Beyond the Shadow in the pinned comment for tools to understand yourself more deeply. The next video will take you even further into this journey of self-knowledge. Keep watching, because the more light we shed on the unconscious, the less it controls us. See you there.